Real Talk with Artists. Here we are, just making some adjustments.
Great.
All right, we're live on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. Everyone, good afternoon. This is Real Talk with Artists, brought to you by Green Media Productions. My name is Cristina Trujillo. I have the honor of introducing and interviewing Robert Schultze, the incredible photographer extraordinaire, award-winning photographer. I really look forward to interviewing him so we can pick his brain, learn about his journey, his career journey as a photographer, and what he's up to today. And of course, how we are able to contact him once this show is wrapped up. All right, thank you so much for joining, Robert. How are you doing today?
Doing good. I've done live streaming before, but this is a little new for me.
What's new about this one in particular?
It's just I haven't done the logistics of multi-platform at the same time. I've done like broadcast like on one thing at a time, but never to all these different platforms. This is an experience.
Yes, it's quite the experience. So for everyone just joining us right now, we are simul streaming. What that means is that we're looking at a couple of screens right now. So if you see our eyes moving, it's because we're literally working with two cameras right now. But that's the hustle. That's what you have to do, right? In order
Hmm.
to get the word out there and be visible. Okay, wonderful. Robert, I'm going to start off by saying I love your space. It looks like you're in this big area. The space is so beautiful, amazing lighting. Tell us about where you find yourself today, right now.
So I'm at Convergence Art Center in San Jose. It's right on the Alameda by the 880 highway. And it's my studio. It's a dance studio. It's huge space. That's what all these mirrors are for. Actually, over here that you see, it's 'cause it's for dancers and stuff. And it's a great space. Nice hardwood floors. And yeah, it just tons of room, and it's very modular too. Like we have some fake walls we can put up and stuff to separate people out to do different activities, that sort of thing. So yeah, it's it's a great location, great space.
Thank you for sharing. And before we end today, we'd love to know more about how people can maybe come and see your space. And I'm assuming you rent out your space.
I do, yeah. We rent it out for dance and creative projects and that sort of thing. And our website for Convergence itself, you can see the space on my website as well, but the actual space itself is convergenceartscenter.org.
Okay. I'll have to look that up, Converge. Thank you for
Yeah,
sharing. I'll make sure to share that with everyone. Wonderful.
great.
So let's start with you, Robert. Tell us about yourself. We know you're a photographer. Tell us a little bit more about that. And it's all you. The mic's on you.
Yeah, well, I'm a commercial and editorial photographer. I came originally from the Midwest, so like Wisconsin, northeastern Wisconsin area, and I moved out to California in like 2008-ish to study at school photography, and yeah, I've been out here since 2008. My family's still back in Wisconsin, and I am probably one of the only, yeah, probably the only family member that's out in California. One of the only people that's out in California in this family doing creative work. Everyone else is kind of involved in other stuff. So I'm kind of the creative oddball in the family. So
And so no one, are you the first one to do photography in your family?
professionally, yeah, I know that like some of my uncles on my dad's side of the family were into photography, and they actually, when they passed away, they actually got a bunch of their equipment, a bunch of enlargers and like old film stuff. It was really cool. And I still shoot film occasionally for fun, but yeah, I like to collect that stuff just because it reminds me of, I don't know, those times. It's fun. You being hands-on with photography is fun.
Absolutely. And I have to ask, what inspired you to be a photographer? What inspired you, but when did you feel that inspiration, the calling for this
Mhm.
profession?
Well, I think the the big thing for me is like I grew up watching a lot of movies, and so at first I really wanted to be a director, a filmmaker, and I got really excited about like the Indiana Jones movies and the Goonies, and I saw Terminator 2 probably when I was way too young to see it, Aliens, and I got really excited about that stuff. And you know, a lot of people don't know this. You know, maybe other creative people do, obviously, but a lot of people don't know that making a movie is really hard, and it involves a ton of people and tons of collaboration before you even talk about equipment or money or anything like that. Like it's a huge undertaking. And I've worked on some short projects and some commercials and some like documentary stuff, but for the most part these days I'm just photography. I do some video work. I recently did something for the city of Palo Alto where they created a mural on one of the main streets, that's a Black Lives Matter mural, and we documented this mural being painted. So it was like a time lapse all day of a camera way above the street that we set up there and captured the whole process.
That's fantastic, and what a meaningful cause and
Yeah.
meaningful work. That's fantastic. Thank you. And in preparation of this interview, I asked Robert to share some photography with us that I can share with you all. So I have one here. Can you tell us about this one, Robert?
Yeah, so that was part of a campaign I did for an outdoors company. They were kind of a startup, and yeah, it was yeah. So it was basically outdoor clothing, and so the idea was we wanted to show that like the clothing that the people wear on these hiking adventures, but the idea was to show them working with current technology out in the forest. So she has an iPad there. You can't see it as well in that one, but there's another one that you can see it better in. But that was kind of a wide vista shot that we put like on larger print ads. And then the picture that's a little bit closer to her where you can see that she's holding the iPad with her back to the camera. That went in like magazines and that sort of thing. And so this was, yeah, an advertising shoot that took, you know, all day to get like the two pictures, tons of equipment, tons of people, big production.
Wonderful. This is incredible. I thank you so much for folks that are joining us on Instagram. We have the incredible photographer Robert Schultze that actually we have the honor and the privilege of representing through the media. And I'd like to ask any questions right now about this incredible photography. I know you can only see a version of it here on Instagram, but if you tune in on Facebook or YouTube, Twitter, you can see the entire picture there. So thank you, Robert. And what's another picture that you'd like to share with us for us today? I believe that. Sorry. Okay. Okay. So what's up? What's next on our? I have this one, Robert, that I ended up downloading. I'm sorry, you can't really see it too much here, but if you can share about that one there on Instagram, while
Oh, yeah. So that's actually a friend of mine. I took that picture when I was still in school. The idea was to just do a portrait that was kind of somewhere between, you know, fashion and editorial. And so I chose this location in Half Moon Bay, a little farm that we got access to, and I, you know, picked out all the wardrobe and stuff for this. And this is a friend of mine in school, so this is an older picture, but it's something that I think still looks really good today and still representative of my style overall. And so yeah, I like the very soft lighting. Not a big fan of hard shadows and bright highlights. I like things to be a little more subtle. But yeah, it was actually available light that we used a couple bounce cards on, so like some reflectors that we just set up kind of around her. There's people like on each side of her actually in this picture that is holding reflectors up to fill in like her face and her eyes and give a little more definition to the jacket. It was also very foggy that day, as you can see.
but it still looks very beautiful, even though we can see an image of it. And if you're on joining us from Twitter, YouTube, or Facebook, now we're going to share another image that Robert provided. And so this one's very beautiful. This one is also in the woods, Robert, which I love. And if you can share a little bit more about this one.
Oh yeah. So this is actually some artwork for a friend's album, and this is one of my friends that produced this album. That he's no longer a part of that band anymore, but he plays drums and he also plays banjo. And we had this great shot out in the woods in San Francisco, and it's very simple, actually, probably simpler even than the last picture, which I didn't use any lights on, but I only used a single flash, which is just off camera there on the right side of the frame. You can't see it, but just the one thing. It's a very simple shot. The idea was to just kind of put this person in this really kind of messy natural environment.
It's very beautiful. And when someone comes to you with an idea, a vision for photography, what's the process like? For example, your friend who's in this band and needed a photo for his cover, right? What's that process like?
Well, it depends on a number of factors. For me, it's not. Well, okay, so money, budget does play a part, obviously. But if it's a really cool concept and a really cool idea that we can do with something really interesting visually, I'm pretty flexible on kind of approaching this stuff. So like we kind of negotiated with this picture, like to simplify. We talked at first about having multiple lights and multiple people and kind of a bigger production, and we kind of simplified it quite a bit. Like I said, it's just one light. So if it's a project that's really interesting, I'm more likely to be involved or more likely to be interested in the project and more likely to be open to negotiation because I want to make cool stuff and I want to help people make cool stuff.
Yes. And I know you're really good at capturing people's visions when it comes to creative work. Thank you, Robert. We also have one more here. Give us a second. I believe it's we have another photo here, Robert. I think it's image. This image here. I'm gonna surprise you all. I'm sorry, on Instagram you guys can't see it. Forgive me in advance, but definitely check us out on the other platforms to see the photography. Okay. Here we have another one in the woods. It's so beautiful. Okay, tell us about this. Another nature. Is it nature inspired?
Yeah, this is the same from the same shoot as the first image. This is the second image on this series. So the idea first was to capture the big vista with the iPad in the forest and the technology and stuff. So that the idea was to capture it far away for like bigger ad placement. So like talking, you'd probably see that other one on like billboards and that sort of thing. This is really meant for more of a magazine or like a smaller ad space because you can see that you can obviously see that she's holding the iPad. And we switched the direction around, obviously gotten closer so that we could see her better and you can still see all the light streaming through. That was kind of a lucky shot because we didn't plan on there being mist that day. And we had this great fog for this shot. Well, for both shots really, but it worked out really well for this one. Like that's exactly what I imagined when I was planning this, and it's always great when everything kind of comes together like that because it's you work so hard to concept the stuff, and then there just might not be any fog that day, or the sun might not be out that day. Like it's very chaotic when you're shooting on location. You have less control, but in a way that's kind of what makes it so great. Is that you have less control. And that's always been kind of a hallmark of my work is like I do like to be in control of the things that I can be, but I think it's important to kind of not have control sometimes. And, some people might disagree with me. Some teachers or educators or other professionals might say, no, that's wrong. But it's like, when you do this type of thing where you can have kind of a flexible beauty about something, it's better to kind of relinquish some of that control.
That's very important, and I think that we can apply that philosophy, if I
Mm-hmm.
into other things, right? Specifically, I think to the creative arts in terms of letting go of control and using and optimizing what we have at that moment, because there's so many things I believe that as creatives, like there's not a lot of control that we have, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just this picture now. Let me ask you, for this particular portrait, again, if you're on Instagram, you can join us on YouTube to actually see the portrait that we're showing here. What was this used for again, Rob? Or was this is this for an advertisement app or magazine?
Well, it's meant for point of sale. So like we're talking about like billboards and that sort of thing. And this one is kind of meant, like I said, it's more okay to see it as like on a smaller. It's fine to not see it on a billboard because you can see the iPad, you can see even the app that she's using, and that sort of thing. So it's kind of meant to be seen at a bit closer of a space, whereas the other one, which is bigger, it can be blown up. You can see it from a larger scale.
Okay, that's wonderful. And so now we want to know about your photography as a career. Can you tell us a little bit about for people that are interested in breaking into the photography industry, especially now that there are several things that one can do with an iPhone, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are the benefits of breaking into photography now, as things have changed so dramatically with technology?
The benefits or like the obstacles?
Because the benefits, like in terms of your career, like what's been, I mean, like you say you have someone that wants to break into this field, like what would you tell them? Let's start with that.
If I was telling someone that if they want to break into this field, I would say that you need to forget about equipment, because anything, first of all, the ads that you see for the iPhone, or people saying that like this picture was shot on an iPhone and it's blown up to 40 feet wide, it's on a billboard, like it was not taken on an iPhone. That would look like one giant block, a pixel. Like it just would not look good. So like, depending on your medium, like if you're shooting for billboards, that's the time when it's probably time to invest in professional equipment. If you're shooting senior photos or weddings and that sort of thing, well, weddings maybe not so much, but like if you're doing senior photos and stuff, if you want to use your Canon 5D and break into stuff like that, that's totally fine. Is because it's all about where it's going to end up. You need to think about your end product. You need to think about where that picture is going to be and who is going to see it. Because again, like I can't shoot something that's going to go on a billboard with an iPhone because it just won't work. You got to think about your end product.
And what was that process for you when you started as a photographer?
So I actually started doing sort of senior photos and weddings when I was in Wisconsin. I was like 16 when I got my first paid job. And so I was doing weddings, and I really quickly learned that I don't like doing weddings at all. It's just there's a social aspect of it where there's like too much trying to please everyone. You need to be able to. There's less of a emphasis on being pleased with yourself, with your own work, because you need to make the bride happy and the groom happy and the groom's uncle happy, and like, it's just a lot of things that don't. Yeah, it doesn't appeal to me as greatly as like collaborating on something. And with editorial and advertising, you collaborate a lot, sometimes more than others, but yeah, you're always collaborating. Was there two parts to that question? Sorry.
Yes. So that I wanted to know about your career and what that
Yeah.
process, that journey has been for you. And
Yeah.
you did mention, you wanted to do film, right? And then you also now you do the photography, and I have a beautiful image here, if I may share now, in
Mhm.
terms of using. Let us know if this is correct. Is this the if I'm going to share this for everyone that's watching on our other social media platforms. This is such a beautiful image here, and I believe that it's a 35 millimeter film. Is that correct?
Yeah, so that was one of those. This is kind of an example of times when I'm happy to not have control, because that red that you're seeing is a light leak in the camera, and so that's not something that, I mean, you can duplicate it with digital, but it's not the same. You don't get the same sort of up to chance uh, happenings that you do with this. And a lot of the film cameras that you use, or that I use, are older. This was taken with a Nikon F2. It's an old 1980s film camera that was used a lot by photojournalists. The thing is a tank. Like it doesn't need batteries. It's fully mechanical. The only thing that uses batteries on that itself is the light meter that's built into it. So yeah, this wasn't a personal this wasn't a ad or anything. This is a personal project. I was staying at a lake house property with a couple of friends, and usually when I go places like this where I know I'm going to have a cabin and a room to store equipment, I'll bring my film cameras and stuff, because I want to be able to capture stuff like this. It's all really. I love film, and I shoot film all the time. And I always, like, not only myself, but my teachers and stuff have said otherwise, also have agreed with me, that photographers today even should still shoot film, because you learn so much about the process. And you don't even have to develop it. Like, developing your film is fun, and I do think people should do it, but you don't have to. But there is something magical about, putting your photo paper that you've exposed with an image and it's blank, and you put it in the developer, and the picture appears, and it's like, there's nothing else like that I've experienced.
Are you still developing the pictures yourself, Robert?
These days, I'm shooting a lot of color, and so you can't really develop that on your own. I mean, you can, but it's kind of dangerous, and it's difficult to dispose of the chemicals. So, like, if you're going to develop on your own, you want to use black and white film, but you still need to be careful about disposing of the chemicals, because there's silver nitrate in it. So you got to be careful with that stuff.
Got it. And we have our friend Eleanor. She says she loves that camera. For all those who have joined us here on Instagram, please chat with us. This is Ask Robert any questions. Eleanor, tell us about what do you love about that camera, or if you have any questions for Robert, please do share. Estrella just joined us. We have some friends here. We can make this as interactive, as fun as you all would like. So please join the conversation. Okay, that's really beautiful, Robert. Okay, now the next one on our list, Robert, I believe is, you tell me, I think it's, let me look. Where we have another, is this also film, correct? Oh, this is so beautiful. I'm sorry for those on Instagram. You're going to have to switch over to Instagram, because I'm about to share a beautiful photograph. This is absolutely stunning. Okay, so I'm going to actually pull my phone from my stand. It's going to be a little bit awkward, y'all, but I really want you folks, our friends on Instagram, to see this picture.
Okay.
All right, Robert, it's all you. Tell us what are we watching here?
So again, this is a film photograph. This is a 35 millimeter taken with my Nikon F2, and it was taken with the same group of people that was the previous woman. This is at a lake that was next to the place we were staying at, and it was just like on top of a mountain and all sunny, and it just kind of worked out like this. And like, I don't, I always want to make sure that people understand that like a huge part of photography, professional photography, is planning and execution, so you get the same results every single time. But this picture was not planned. Neither was the other picture. And for some reason, I don't know why I feel this way, but I always feel that I'm able to be more spontaneous with film than I am with digital, which is strange because with digital, you can just take a million pictures and not worry about it. And with film, you have to, you supposedly have to be a little more careful because you can't see the picture right away. You have a limited amount of frames to take, but I feel that it's a lot more improvisational for me personally.
It's a stunning photograph, and it brings me back. It makes me nostalgic. I mean, it reminds me of like 1980s, 78, around those years.
Mm-hmm.
It's an incredible shot, and again, this is captured in nature. So I'm seeing a beautiful sort of a trend here that you have in terms of capturing incredible photography of people in nature.
Yeah, well, part of that probably has to do with how I grew up too, because like I said, northeastern Wisconsin, but I mean, we grew up in the middle of nowhere. So I actually worked on a farm when I was a kid. I'm a farm kid. I worked on my first job I got when I was 8 years old. Worked, at the neighbor's farm up the street in Wisconsin. So, wintertime comes around. It's, you still gotta take care of the cows and milk everyone and feed the calves and all that stuff. So yeah, I'm very attracted to the outdoors in this way.
I love that. And may I add in, folks, I'm sharing this on Instagram, so please, let us know what's your take, right? Because art is very like it's a personal interpretation, right? For me, I must say, like for this, I feel that often as humans, we tend to forget that we ourselves as human beings, we are nature, right? We tend to see ourselves as detached from nature because we think of nature as the wilderness, water, but this picture here captures that. At least for me, it captures how we're one with nature because we ourselves are nature. That's what I get from this powerful image.
Well, I feel like there was a lot of images that I took a lot of pictures that I made on this trip, and yeah, it's kind of one of those that stood out to me because there's always pictures of mountains and forests and lakes, and there was just something about this one where she was coming out of the water like that with the trees behind her and the water kind of reflecting her in the front, and you can see that the light's reflecting off of her neckline. And I just think that's really beautiful. And and
that actually looks like it could be on the cover of an album.
Yeah, I could see that.
That's gorgeous. I have some people loving this on Instagram. I'm glad I'm able to share this.
Great.
Okay, so now what do we have next on our list, Robert, of incredible photography that you take? I believe that what we have now is socially inspired, right? And so I'm going to transition now.
Yeah.
Folks, here we are.
Yeah. So something like I was saying before, I went to school in San Francisco, but I grew up in the Midwest, and I came to California in 2008 to go to school and kind of get my bachelor's degree and stuff. Which, by the way, you don't need a degree in photography to do photography. You don't. I found it to be super helpful for me, but you don't need a degree to get a job as a photographer. So let's just put that to rest right away. You can go to any magazine, any newspaper, as long as you have good pictures, it does not matter. So, so then, the next part of this story of my life here is in 2011, I was going to a number of exhibitions at the MoMA in San Francisco, and one of we got a free membership as students at the Academy of Art, and one of the exhibitions I went to over and over again was an exhibition by Richard Avedon, and it was a overview of his career, and he always does these really stunning, simple black and white portraits on white backdrops. And I got inspired to document the Occupy Wall Street movement in the same way. What I would do is I would take a white background, a plain white background, to any place where the protests were going on. In this first case, it was downtown San Francisco, and I took like maybe 60 or 70 pictures, different protesters on this white backdrop, and I made them black and white, and I turned it in for a school project, and it was hugely praised, and everyone loved it, and that I thought that was it. But then I started getting phone calls. I started getting calls from newspapers, magazines, TV stations. I was interviewed on ABC. I think it was ABC 7 back then, and they all wanted this Occupy Wall Street stuff. And so I sold, I didn't sell them. I sold the rights to publish them. That's a key difference. And it's an important thing when you're trying to make a living as a photographer. I sold the rights to publish these to the San Francisco Chronicle and a couple other local magazines. And the next thing I knew, I was getting phone calls and emails from all over the country, other Occupy Wall Street camps, saying that I should come to their camp and do the same thing. So at that point, I started traveling. This is that last image is where the Occupy series ended.
This one here.
Yeah, that's the last one that I sent you. That other one is something else. But I started traveling. I went to just about every major city in the U.S. I went to at least 30 different states. Bear in mind, I'm still in school in 2011. I'm still making it to class 3 days a week, and I'm going to New Jersey on Friday night, and I come back Sunday morning, or sometimes the day of a class I come back, and so I captured these. I did about roughly overall, I probably took about 10,000 pictures at all these different camps, roughly. And I published, a couple hundred of them. I had exhibitions, interviews, and then pretty soon I was not only getting these publications, but I was getting hired to create images like these. And so Occupy Wall Street, however you may feel about it, played a large part in launching my career.
That's wonderful. And tell me a little bit, since this is Real Talk with Artists, tell me a little bit about your personal, let's dive in deep in terms of your personal values, your own thoughts with regards to photography when it comes to social justice issues and what that means to you.
So I really think that depending on what it is that you're capturing, in this case, I was capturing a event that was happening in public, on public property, where people could take pictures. You were expected to be photographed. I personally I was in agreement with a lot of Occupy Wall Street's beliefs. I was kind of right there with them, and I went to the rallies and I went to the protests, and I was there when camps got raided. I was there when people were arrested en masse, and luckily that never happened to me. But I think that as a photographer, it's kind of important to separate yourself a little bit. You need to let them know that you're there to capture and you don't want to take sides necessarily. And that may go, that might be tough with movements like Occupy, where they were very passionate. And the key for me was kind of not getting in so personal and close with them. I had to sort of maintain distance, not only to do my own work and to make sure that that was good, but also I needed to maintain kind of a level of neutralness to make sure that that everyone felt comfortable, because I didn't want them to think that, you know, I got accused of taking pictures for the police, of being like a spy or something like that. And luckily, I had the forethought to contact a lot of these camps. I was able to find information, because this was really more of a job for like a detective or a private detective to find out all these people and the information. And so I would make sure that I get permission from everyone. I got photo releases for everybody. And everyone knew that it was meant to be a way to document. It wasn't meant to be political, but it was political by nature. But my capturing the images wasn't meant to be a political statement.
Okay, thank you for that. And I guess that's a principle also that photojournalists apply as well, right?
Yeah, so I've never been a like a proper photojournalist. I've worked with newspapers before, but I've never like done that specifically. But yeah, I tried to stick to that sort of credo of to remain neutral, and I think that did help me, and I think it helped the people that were involved as well.
Great, thank you. And here we have on our notes, you mentioned your Occupy Wall Street work, your stolen work. Tell us about the stolen work.
Okay, well,
what should I be sharing now for this stolen work?
So that next black and white image of the guy with the hat with the beanie on, that's the one. So that's kind of a funny story, and he actually might be watching. I'm not sure. On Facebook or something. So this is this picture that you're about to pull up. This is a portrait of my best friend. He came out to visit in California.
Okay, here we
go. He came out to visit, and I was experimenting with different lighting. I wanted to have a similar look as my Occupy Wall Street portraits, which I took all outside with all natural lights. And this is actually, I took all the Occupy Wall Street photos outside with no lights. It was just the sunlight, just like a natural light. This is actually completely lit. It's completely artificial lighting, and I was experimenting with different ways to create a similar look. And so it was kind of like just kind of a fun thing. There was no client or anything like that. We were just trying stuff. And he is not the most, he doesn't love getting his picture taken. He was kind of shy at that time, and I took this picture of him, and I just put it out there, and then not a couple years, but at least a year later, I got a tip from this friend, from one of his friends, who saw this picture hanging in an art gallery in like Minneapolis or something, and it was like a pencil sketch, but it was like fully detailed, completely the same picture. And so basically this other artist took my intellectual property, and he copied it exactly, like right. You can't see it in this screen, but if you look at his fingers, his hands, he's actually holding earbuds in them. That was actually copied in the drawn version. So like he completely copied it. So it was kind of a fun thing, because I got to kind of brag that some well-known artist stole my work, and Josh, my friend, got to brag that he is in a museum now. So it's all good now. The artist and I are on fine terms and everything like that. But yeah, I mean, I kind of jumped into action because you got to defend your intellectual property. And I had a friend who was working as a photography agent, and we sent a letter to this artist's estate talking about, copyright infringement and all that stuff. And that's kind of a scary thing. Like when you talk about how you're going to possibly have a lawsuit, it's a scary thing. But we did end up settling. And at first, I really tried hard to get the artist to relinquish the work to me, to give the piece to me.
Wow.
But ultimately, that kind of was fruitless. I would have loved to. I would have loved to give this to him.
Mhm.
So that was kind of a.
That's a really great topic, and actually, I'm going to add this.
Mhm.
I'm going to improvise here, and I'm going to add this now to our chat here. IP and copyright.
Yes.
For folks that are photographers, especially now on social media, Robert, where so much is being shared, right?
Mhm.
What are there some tips, a few tips that you can provide on photographers protecting their IP?
So the most basic thing you can do is you can register them with the federal government that they're copywritten. You can register sets of images. I think it's copyright.gov. I think you can register, 1,000 works if you want all at once, and you pay like $30 or something like that. And so then they will officially be recognized, so that in case something like that does happen, you actually can say that this image is copyrighted. So you have that on your side, and that gives you a better chance of defending yourself in court if that were to happen. But I think a big thing right now, though, is like you need to just be aware of where your images are, and like if you go and post them on your blog or something like that, it's great to to share your work and show it and stuff. But maybe before you post that picture, you want to. I'm against watermarks. I don't like them. I would rather just show the image because it's stronger that way. But I think what you should do is be aware of where it's going. And so if you're putting it on a website, you want to make it the right size for a website.
And here are the images. Thank you so much for sharing that, Robert. And the images that we're seeing here, is this also part of stolen work? Or you already
It's not. It's not.
Okay, tell us about these images here.
Yeah, so I was experimenting further with what I was doing with Occupy Wall Street, and I wanted to do a combination of natural light and artificial light. And so these are actually photographed outside with a black backdrop, but the difference is I have studio lighting with me at these. And so it's a small space that we set up outside with studio lighting and a black backdrop. And it just kind of let the sun kind of fill in some of the space, but obviously it's a very different look because the lights are positioned as such. You have two lights behind her and then one in the front. And it was just meant to kind of make like a sharper, more contrasty, more highly produced image.
Yeah, and for those on Instagram, sorry, you're actually not able. I'm trying to show her face, but because of the lighting, you can't. It's a little bit. Yeah, we can't really see her beautiful face. But let's see what else we have here. Because what is I'm sorry, Miss. Yeah.
Oh no, yeah. So I would say that image, as well as the picture of my friend that was stolen, I think those all sort of came from my Occupy Wall Street work.
Wow.
I understood how to light with like a very minimalist setup, starting with Occupy Wall Street, and then I started getting bigger and bigger with the portrait of my friend. That was shot in a studio and not outside, but we had lots of lights, and so we were still able to maintain that look, that sort of clean, soft look in the studio. And so then with the picture of the people in the armor outside, that was kind of more of an experiment of bringing the studio outside to them. So they're all kind of related in that way.
And this one here, let's see, what do we have next? Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, so this is my dad, and this one and the last one is my dad, and he grew up in Wisconsin, and
Fascinating.
yeah, he grew up in Wisconsin, and he owned a family business and whatnot, and everything he kind of grew up. I want to say kind of like a sort of like a, what do you call it? Like he was kind of just a working class guy. He never really looked at photography or art or thought of it as such as anything more than, just a waste of time. And maybe not a waste of time, but like he just didn't understand it. He didn't appreciate it. And he came around eventually. But yeah, so this was a portrait of my dad that I did in 2009. I was home from school and I'd taken a bunch of classes and I was wanting to do family portraits. And so I got this one. And then the next set, actually, that you pulled up, that's actually the next picture that you went to.
Let's see. I believe it's the kid.
Yeah, it was that one. This next one, and then the next couple ones, I think, that are before it or whatever. This is actually my extended family. And so this all kind of goes into the Occupy Wall Street look because it's a simple backdrop. This is another one where there is no artificial lights. I lit this in a small room with a big window in it. And I just put the backdrop on a wall and I had them come in and I photographed the entirety of my family on this clean black backdrop because I was kind of focusing on capturing my family.
Yes, and interesting. So I'm borrowing a computer right now, and the funny thing is that by itself, the computer just like I don't know. I think it was the mouse. It amplified the image, and I'm like, how can I? Oh, there you go. How can I get that to? How can we do that for other images that I want everybody to see? Let's see. Oh,
So if you go the other way,
oh, zoom in. That's so beautiful. I just want everybody to see this. It's just absolutely exquisite. Okay, and then here is also your family, correct?
yep, these are all my family members.
And natural lighting.
Natural light. So like I kind of went from outdoor natural lighting to big studio lighting and then kind of back to the simple lighting. And I find that simple 99% of the time is better.
Wow. Yeah, this is absolutely captivating. Let's see another one here. And that's also your family member, also
Yeah.
natural, simple. Okay.
Yeah, that's my cousin.
That's great. Okay. I don't want to run out of time. Which one should I share? I think you mentioned also the last one on this batch here was of your
Yeah.
father.
No. This is actually my mom.
Oh, this is your mom. Okay.
And so this is one of the times where I did this type of portrait, actually in a place, like not in a studio type setting.
Not in a studio. And also this is natural lighting.
Yeah. So again, like it's just very simple light, one light. So the one light being a window, of course. Yeah, simple works. Simple is always better.
Is this what you mean by clean style via OWS? What does that mean?
That means via Occupy Wall Street. So I was just referring. I was kind of putting all these images together, saying that like they all kind of came out of Occupy Wall Street.
Beautiful. All right. Next on our list for the remaining time that we have, let's see, we have travel and exhibition. So let's take a look at that.
Great.
Let's see. 1 second here.
Yeah. So after in 2016, I went on kind of a big trip on my own. I had been through a number of things that happens in life, and I needed a break. And so I traveled for a month through Thailand. And this picture actually was taken in Greece on a different trip. I went with my Yeah, she's still my fiance.
Hi, Lauren. Are you with us?
She might be. Yeah, this picture was taken in Greece from our hotel actually, and it was like 2 in the morning or something like that. And yeah, that was one of the I worked on a project for myself that I sold as a book at a gallery in San Francisco called Holiday Every Day, which was about how people use tourism to sort of take advantage of a culture. Like people are always going, they're like, oh, I'm going to go on holiday to Greece or to Hawaii or something, but like you're really just kind of utilizing this culture to get your own kicks out of it. And so I was trying to focus on people doing just that. So, and again, like I'm guilty of this too, of course, because I like to travel a lot too. But I always try to remain kind of a fly on the wall. I try not to do too many touristy things. I try to be as involved as I can. Like I never stay in hotels when I travel in places like this. Um, a lot of times I'll do homestays. I'll stay in hostels for local hostels that are run by different local families and that sort of thing. So
Is this the book you just referred to, Robert?
it's actually not the book that I'm referring to is actually it was a short run edition. There were two of them actually. They were small books. They were like maybe like 8 inches by 8 inches, so like square, like pretty small. And I sold those at an exhibition. And so yeah, this one is also from Thailand. This was a part of my travel throughout Southeast Asia.
Yeah, very beautiful, incredible images. Well, Robert, since we're running out of time, I want to
Mhm.
focus on letting folks know how they can, how they can commission you, call you, contact you for this amazing work. Tell our friends, our audience, essentially what type of work are you available for today, considering social distancing,
Mhm.
PPE, standards. Let us
Yeah.
know, please, what you're available for today.
Yeah, right now at this moment, we are doing like product photography, which we can do in this studio, which is not like the thing that we're not showing any product photography here, but like we have this great space that we can use for product photography. We can do portraits for advertising editorial. We can do all that in this space, and we have access to all the PPE you could need. We have bathrooms in a separate space. We have all the hand sanitizer and masks you could want. Uh, and yeah, you can find me. My website is rjs.studio, www.rjs.studio.
That up.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then,
Excellent.
yeah, great. And you can
So
read,
I'm a multitasker. I have my
yeah, I
phone
see that.
here.
Yeah, and then I have, that's my website. My phone number and email is there as well.
Oh, where did it go? Where did it go? Oh, I just had your website up. Okay. Sorry. Let's look at your book while I pull up your website once again.
Okay,
It's a beautiful website.
thanks. Yeah, that's probably the best way to reach me. I have social media. I have like Instagram and Facebook. I don't use it that much. Like honestly, I don't know what it is. I guess I'm happy with images, but I don't need to share them on a billion different platforms all the time. So um, that's a great way to see kind of the highlights of my work. Like I do share highlights of my work on my Instagram.
This is great. And then we can see your studio from your website.
That's right. Yeah. So this is the studio that I'm in right now.
This is absolutely gorgeous. It's a lot of space for folks that are concerned with PPE. This is an incredible space for social distancing.
Yeah.
So, okay, you mentioned product photography, and this studio, for everyone that doesn't know, this is in San Jose.
Mhm.
So product photography, what else do we have? What else are you available for?
Well, right now, so like if you wanted to do like a simple ad where whether it's like a portrait of for a product or something like that, or like a announcement or anything, this is a good space to do it because we have a lot of room to manage the crew and to make sure everyone feels good. We have a green room, which is not pictured here because it was still being worked on, but we have a green room, and so I do professional headshots and that sort of thing as well. Uh,
Professional. Right.
yeah, so
Great.
that's that sort of thing at the moment, just because right now a lot of productions are kind of at a standstill.
Right.
So, but we're still able to do small productions with limited amounts of people.
Okay, I love it. And now we have, we want to let folks know on the things that you're currently doing, your ongoing
Mhm.
projects. You currently have a podcast. Tell us about your podcast, Robert.
Yeah, I listened. I've tried listening to many photography podcasts, and I've only found a handful that I like because I find that a lot of photography media in general talks a lot about gear, and I really do not care about gear. You can take a great picture with anything. It's only a matter of what you're going to do with the picture. So you need to know, what. Yeah,
Yeah. I'm so sorry to interrupt, Robert. So anyone that's on Instagram, it's about to kick us off because we're at our 1 hour. So I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just want to get a few things out there. So podcast, what's the name of the podcast, Robert?
the podcast is called Light Meter, and you can find it on iTunes and pretty much any place that you listen to podcasts.
Wonderful. And Robert, thank you so much for joining us today on this interview. Sorry to cut it so short,
Yeah,
but I want to let everyone know again, Robert is our talent. Okay, we're going to continue anyway. So Robert is our talent. We represent him on Re Media, and so if you're happy, you want to go ahead and book Robert today based on what you saw on this interview. You can either hit him up directly, let him know that you saw him today on Real Talk with Artists, or let him know you found him here, or you can also book him directly through remedia.org. And I'm going to switch up headsets because we just bounced out of
yep.
Instagram. Um, 1 second, everyone. Okay, so okay, here we go. For a proper closeout from all the other. Thank you so much. Can you hear me, Robert?
Yes, I can.
Wonderful. Now I can. Okay. So for a proper close out for this show again, Robert, thank you so much for joining us. Anything else that you'd like to let folks know before we close out?
I mean, no, I mean,
It's
I
so
think I'm
fascinating,
good.
talking to you. We need to have you on again, Robert, and because there's just so much good stuff to share.
There's
So
a
we
lot
will
of things
definitely
that
have
people don't know about the photography industry and about
right.
photography in general, and it's good to clear it up.
Yes, I love it. Thank you so much. And here's Robert's information, and anyone on any of these social media platforms could come back and tune in at any time. They will be saved. Hopefully, Robert, they'll be saved on Instagram because I was mismanaging my phone. So I'm like, oh, I hope we got that saved on Instagram as well.
All right.
Technology. All right. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, Robert. Thank
All
you
right. Thanks,
again for
Christina.
joining us. Thank you,
All
everyone. Bye.
right. Bye.